Welcome to the boss guide for the Tormented Guardian of the Ruins. This boss is pretty tough and quite strong, and I really had trouble dealing significant damage to him. He really took me out several times and gave me a pretty good beating, which is of course pretty frustrating to deal with. So in order to help you not die as often against this boss, today I'll show you exactly how I personally handled it. And yes, he can definitely be pretty tough. I was honestly quite skeptical about whether you could even beat him that easily at my level, especially after witnessing this particular scene. Yeah, that's definitely pretty frustrating, but don't worry, we're going to take him down today and I'll show you how you can defeat the Tortured Guardian. I'd really appreciate if you could give a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe. As always, you can find the 100% guide to Lies of P on the channel. Let's first take a look at the equipment. When it comes to equipment, it's actually pretty simple. In my opinion, the bow makes a big difference because it's really effective against this boss, but we'll get to everything step by step. So let's see how you get the equipment and what advantages it gives you. So let's go into the equipment menu. Here I have the Bone Cutting Saw Blade plus 10, which is of course pretty decent. But you can actually use any main weapon here since we won't need it that often. What we really need a lot is the Royal Hornbow plus 5, which we've already fully upgraded to deal as much damage as possible. And this really makes the difference for this strategy, and I found it a lot easier with it. Of course, you can also use any other bow to do this. Other than that, we also have the Legion weapon, Flameberg, and as it already says, flames cause more pain to people with blue blood. These are exactly the people we have in front of us, now enemies with blue blood. So, of course, we want to increase our damage here, which is why flames are always good against this boss. In the end, though, we'll only use the Legion weapon at a specific point, and I'll show you exactly when that is. Let's continue with the amulets. Of course, I have the Patience Amulet plus 1, Strength Amulet plus 1, just to boost determination a bit more. But you can choose whatever you like here. Naturally, you can also pick something else if you prefer. It's not all that crucial, since with these technique points and so on, we won't be dealing that much extra damage anyway. But the Cadaver Slayer Amulet is absolutely essential because here too blue blood damage is increased, and it even says I hate blue blood. So that's exactly the right talisman, or rather exactly the right amulet to get even more damage out of this. Apart from that, I also have the Carrier Amulet plus 1, which of course increases the maximum weight so you can carry all this stuff properly. Otherwise, of course, there are also the defensive pieces, and you should make sure you have the highest possible physical damage reduction rate so you take as little damage as possible. Physical damage reduction should be relatively high here. The rest is actually pretty irrelevant, and you can just choose whatever suits you best. Shock cartridge is obviously not suitable here, so we can definitely swap that out for a cartridge that provides physical damage reduction. So maybe even use the brake cartridge, loader plus 1, which is also pretty good in terms of weight. Once you have everything equipped, we'll move on to the whetstone. And personally, I take the fire whetstone with me because, as we've already learned, fire is always effective against enemies with blue blood, so fire is a good choice. Alright, so let's take that with us and I'll show you right away how it works. But first, let's take another look at the level. Personally, I'm at level 176 and honestly feel a bit underleveled because we're barely doing any damage to the enemy. Maybe you've also distributed your points a bit incorrectly, but actually it should be fine like this. Well, maybe you should level up to around 180, then it'll definitely get a bit easier because at level 176 it's really tough. I have to say it's pretty exhausting. And if you're a bit higher than that, of course, it's more convenient. So we are totally motivated now, guys, and I'm going to show you how we take on the boss, the individual attack mechanics in phase 1. When we enter the boss fight, there are usually two possibilities that can happen. First, of course, we take our fire grindstone and then run towards the boss. Either he jumps up now and does his red attack, which you can dodge quite well if you run away and then do a roll. The only important thing is that you don't lock onto him, so you can actually perform the roll. Then we apply all our fire damage to immediately set him on fire. That's one way to do it. But there's also another possibility. You can actually dodge the red strike in a different way. In fact, you can also successfully dodge it if you stay very close to him and quickly run to his back right foot. You can also dodge this attack quite well that way, but personally I think that running away from the boss and consistently keeping your distance is generally the better and safer option to avoid the dangerous red attack and deal some solid reliable damage overall. That's one way to do it, and the other option is to run away here for a moment, wait briefly, and then perform the roll at the right time if you prefer that particular approach. It's important not to lock onto the boss so that you actually perform a roll. The second option when we go in is to once again apply fire to our weapon, then run towards him, and sometimes he'll crouch down. And when he does that, it's actually just absolutely perfect, truly perfect, because then you can simply run straight through without any hesitation and end up right behind him, which is actually the very best way to deal direct damage and set him on fire right away. And of course, after the very first move, you unleash all your power and try to get the guy burning as quickly as possible immediately right away. That should work relatively quickly, and once you've set the guy on fire, we move on to the second tactic. We switch over to the bow pretty quickly, keep our distance, and only use the bow once you've managed to set him on fire. With the bow, we always carefully shoot at his small arm where the crystal is located, and you need to hit it as often as you possibly can. The damage isn't what's important here, but rather how often you hit that crystal. And with the bow, this works quite well if you just keep your distance and take the opportunity, especially when he rises up or performs his jump attack to shoot into his arm. This way you take relatively little damage because you're always very carefully keeping your distance, and in fact he very rarely manages to hit you with his attacks. You can also quite easily dodge the red attack, and you just keep shooting at the arm until it eventually breaks. Now, Flamberge comes into play and you basically burn him for the second time, dealing a good amount of damage once again, just like before. You'll then get to the second phase pretty quickly, so just keep going. Once the hand is destroyed, of course, shoot at the horn, and you'll reach the second boss phase fairly fast. There are, of course, a few things to keep in mind there as well. Once you've reached the second phase, immediately get moving and run straight at him. It's best to switch from your bow to your regular weapon, and now you can really start dealing some serious damage. Especially at the beginning, it's very important that you just run straight through. That's when you can really deal a lot of damage. And then of course we move back out and return to our bow attack, keeping our distance again and now aiming only at his horn. Here too, it's important that we land a lot of hits, and if he takes a shot at you, it's really not that bad. You can actually dodge it quite well, and if he charges at you, always face forward. With that shot, it works quite well if you keep moving forward and basically dive under the shot. Now you keep trying to shoot at his horn, because the more often you hit it, the higher the chance that the horn will eventually break. And when that happens, we end up dealing a lot of damage to the boss, and that's actually the real secret to finally draining the boss's very last bit of health. So just keep shooting at the horn. The amount of damage isn't that important there. The main thing is to land a lot of hits on the horn, and eventually it will break. And of course you should also keep your distance here and dodge his powerful attacks, because they're pretty much the same in the second phase. With this we can actually use a good tactic, keep moving out and shooting at his horn until it eventually breaks, and then we can really deal some serious damage. So keep shooting at the horn until it finally breaks. That should work pretty well as long as you always keep your distance, so don't worry. His health will drop drastically in a moment. So just keep at it and eventually break the horn so we can actually deal damage to him. So keep attacking and eventually the horn will break. You can already see it here. A good chunk of the bar disappears, so quickly switch to your weapon, land another 1 or 2 hits, and then you can use your finisher, which takes off a massive amount. You can see at the bottom how the bar melts away, and after that it's really just about surviving with the bow and taking away the rest of his health, which isn't that much anymore. Just a tiny bit left now. You can also land a few more hits here. When he's down, then back off again and continue working on him with the bow. Really keep your distance here at all times. Grab the bow and just keep on shooting at him from afar, carefully keeping yourself safe. And once you finally defeated him, of course you'll receive the Tormented Guardian trophy as your reward. And that's the tactic that worked pretty well for me personally, even though of course we don't really deal much damage to the guy. And yes, at first it's a bit tricky to get the hang of, especially because you never actually expect the horn to break, but with the bow it actually breaks pretty quickly. So far so good, just keep practicing and you'll get it eventually. It just takes a little bit of patience. Now let's take another look at the entire fight and I'll walk you through it again step by step. Alright, here we go. Alright, let's head into the boss fight. We immediately apply flame to the sword, move straight towards him and then watch which jump he does. In this case he crouches down a bit and then jumps up. Then comes the red attack. This time we didn't quite dodge it, but that's not a problem. We unleash all our firepower on him to use the special attacks too, so that he starts burning as quickly as possible. Then back off again. Sometimes it can get a bit tight, especially if you get cornered there, but in theory it should work pretty well to get him burning right at the start. Then switch to the bow, and now it's really just about being patient. Always keep your distance and shoot at his hand, and we just keep doing that until the hand eventually breaks. Once the hand is destroyed, quickly run over and use Flame Surge to really set it on fire again. Maybe you'll even manage to fully ignite it, which can work out quite well from time to time. But 400 damage is definitely impressive. That's a solid statement, and then you keep going. And now you focus again solely on the horn to break it as quickly as possible. And as you can see, now the guy is burning and we can pull out our bow again and aim for the horn once more. Of course, always keep your distance so you don't lose too many potions, and especially watch out for his jumps so you don't get hit. Yes, then we keep going for the horn, hitting it the whole time. Feel free to make your own bow. Special, of course, you can use any bow you want here. That way we quickly get to the second phase, and now, of course, everything gets a bit more difficult. First we immediately draw our weapon, then run straight through to get underneath him, and from there we can calmly land our hits. Feel free to use your special attack as well if you still have it available. And here we can already deal a bit of damage. Now we go back to our old tactics, so we keep our distance again, move out, and then we immediately switch back to the bow. Just make sure you don't get cornered here and keep an eye on your health. Definitely get out and keep your distance again, that's really important here. Especially with this attack, I absolutely have to use a potion, because otherwise it wouldn't have worked. You can also just run out and jump here, and then it usually won't hit you. And here it was actually a bit close, so not a particularly good round to be honest. But in the end, it still worked out. Just be especially careful with these attacks here, so that you can deal proper damage to his horn again, so the horn breaks as quickly as possible and you can then land that massive damage. Just always keep your distance, and then really nothing should happen to you. And you'll always find a window of time where you can attack his horn again. Be a bit careful with his shots, but you can see pretty clearly when he's charging up his shot and then about to fire. When he crawls toward you like that, always move forward. Dodging is always a good idea with this boss to avoid those shots as well. And of course, keep attacking the horn until it finally breaks. Once the horn is destroyed, we immediately switch to our main weapon, land 2 or 3 hits, and then finish him off with a finisher, which should deal a significant amount of damage, especially with the amulet that increases damage for blue blood. So now we take away most of his remaining health, and after that it's just a matter of keeping a bit of discipline at the end, land another 2 or 3 hits. And then, of course, quickly get out again, move away fast so you don't take too much damage. And here, keep your distance again and also get out your bow. As I said, it wasn't a particularly good run for me. I got hit by the red attack quite a few times, and in the end I only had 1 potion left. It was really close, I have to say. But the boss is honestly really tough and at times quite difficult to beat. But if you keep your distance, it actually works pretty well. And you can handle his attacks very well. You can anticipate and dodge them, as you can see here. And of course you can deal the remaining damage with the bow. Maybe use your special again, then it works quite well, and then the guy is done for. So friends, I wish you lots of success and hope you'll take him down quickly with the bow as well. Otherwise you'll also get a nice reward for the fight. And I'd be happy if after beating him with this tactic you give a thumbs up. Thank you very much for that, and see you next time. Take care. Adios and ciao ciao.